move to the next thing and let's go back to our navigation to start with. So at the moment, if you are on the post screen, there is no way we can know that this is the nav which is active, right? The color and the styling of this button or this link is same as the one in the home. Same thing if I click on home link as well, there is no way I can tell which one is active without looking to my URL. Now, how we can fix this? Again, React Router make this one very easy for us and give us some functionalities that we can use. So at the moment we're using link, there is another component which called nav link. Okay, so all what I have to do is just replace this one with another component called nav link from React Router. Then I'll just copy this and replace my actual links with this new nav link component. Now, this nav link component have a built-in property within it, which called isActive, that we can access whenever we want to. So what I will do, so this is first right, wrong, it should be a class name. I don't know how I did these mistakes. Let me fix these first. Class name, because in React we don't use class, we use class name. Now I will remove all this and let's do this together. So of course it should be class name, not class, and should be equal. Then what we can do, we can access the property which is active. So we can do like this, then the property is active, okay? Then an arrow function. And now we can do return whatever we want, okay? Because I know I will have, for example, some classes defined in there. So first, let me fix my spelling again. Um, if you have some shared classes, you can do like this, okay? Whatever your shared class, whether active or not, okay? Then we can have a space and then you can do your condition, okay? And I will say if my property is active, okay? Let's do, for example, my text color. So I'm using again time with CSS text, and let's say black. So text black, that's is active. Otherwise, I'll say text is white. And let's save this. And there we go. You can see immediately my CSS has changed because we are on home screen. So my home button is becoming black and my post is white. Same if I go to post, it's not happening actually for the post. And the reason why, because we didn't add our condition right there. So I'll just copy exactly same thing and put it in my other nav link. And now it should work as expected. Okay, so you can add as many things you want for the styling. This is for the demo sake. I'm just using some very basic styling to show you the difference. Okay, now again, same thing you have to do for these posts as well. I think you may already know how now to do it. Feel free to pause the video and go try. I will go ahead now to my post screen and I will try to do the same thing again. Import the nav link component and replace my link with my nav link. Okay, then go to the class and have my conditional class here. Okay, so I will do as so. My arrow function which accepts one property by default called is active, and this one you can't call it anything you want. This is a property that is given to you by nav link component, so you have to write it like this. And arrow function, and then whatever styling you want. Again, maybe you have some shared class goes here, some random shared class you have, or classes, many of them, you can list as many you want, and then your condition here for whatever condition you need to for styling. Okay, so if it's active, let's say I want to have a background, for example, so BG, and let's say gray, and I'll give it very light gray. Okay, otherwise it should be BG transparent. Let's save this. Okay, so now we don't have any of them active, so you can see they are just don't have any background at the moment, and the blue thing is gone because we removed it, so just whatever default class. And what I will do, I will give a color actually, so text blue as we had before. Let's save this. There we go. Now I'll go click the first one. You can see it is having a background as we said here. If it's active, then have a background, otherwise not. If I click the other one, same thing as well. So this is how you can track your links when you're using the React router. As you can see, it's also very easy and very straightforward. Okay, now let's see how we can test this navlink components and how we can test our classes if they're adding properly when it's active or not. So we will look at our post component that we created before. The good thing now is that with this unit test section, you not only learn how to test the active styling for your navlink, but also because this component is fetching some API calls, we have to learn also how we can mock these calls in unit tests so we're able to run our components. So let's get started. First thing is that in your setup test in your project, you may have a different name if you're not using Create React App, but whatever configuration of your test files, you need to add a global.fetch mock. So we are trying to mock the fetch function in JavaScript that will help us to resolve our promises. Okay, so it's like mocking the actual fetch calls and behaving like there is an API call and resolving it for us. So it's successful. Now we go back to our component. So first things are first is import the libraries we need. Of course, the React, and then we need to import the React testing library render that will help us to mock the render screen so we can access that component and wait for that we need to use. We want to trigger some click events and wait for them until they're completed. Then of course, because our app it is wrapped within browser router, so whenever now you're testing any component, you need to wrap its mock as well in the browser router. Now the next thing is to import our component that we will be testing, and I just have to do it I just have to do it in this way because I always keep my test files in the same root of my file, so it's easy for me to find them and test them. So it's just same level of my actual file. Okay. Now next thing is because we have API calls here, of course, when you're testing, you can't really trigger that API calls. So we have to mock the results as well. So I just created a basic JSON, okay, that I will paste right here. And always it is an array of objects with ID and title. That's all, because that's what the thing I'm using at the moment. And one more thing or two more things we have to do before really writing our test is that we need to clear off our mocks and whenever we finish a test. So before every test, we have before each loop. So what it is doing is going to global fetch and trying to find that global fetch we mocked right here. Okay, and mock the implementation and resolve the promises for us. So before each test we run on this file, this one will run as well. And after each test we run, when it is completed, and before it moves to the next test, it needs to clear whatever the mock calls it made using this fetch. Okay, so this is a very necessary. So your tests are not overlapping on each other. Every test in this file, it starts clean and neat to run the test properly. Now let's create our actual test. So describe, and you may know now what I do here. First, I just write my component name. So I'll call post component, then arrow function. Then now I'll start writing actually my test. So always my first test is just to make sure that my component is rendering properly without crashing. Okay, so test renders without crashing. Okay, now of course the first thing we have to do here is to mock the render of our component. And the way I will do it is very simple. Or what I will do, I will just try to render my component. That's it. And see if that works as expected. If there was any issue, if I didn't mock, for example, these calls, my test this one will fail. Okay, it will throw me an error. Actually, let me try show you how that will look like. I'll just comment this. And there we go. Now we know our component is rendering properly and it's not crashing. Our next test is just to make sure that our posts, the list of our posts are displaying properly as expected here. Okay, so let's go here and create a new test. Oops, inside. Okay, fetches and displays my posts. And my span again is wrong. Displays my posts. And same thing again. We have to mock the render of our component. Okay. And then try to find those elements. So here I'm just mocking our render. Okay. Then we are trying to find this post. Okay. To see if it does exist, which is this one. Okay. Make sure first our title exists. Then here we have to use a wait for. Okay, and let me explain you why we have to do that, which means I have to make this test async test. Reason why, because all these are depending on the API call. So you have to wait for API call and then you want to check if this element exists. Okay, and if you remember, that is the title in our mock, and that's what we are rendering here. Okay, we are rendering post.title, and that's why we're trying to find those elements. So when you're using a API call, when you're waiting for results, you have to always use a wait and then wait for. Okay, then inside you do your expected results, what you're expecting. Now let's try to run this and see if this is working. And yes, that's working as expected. And you see, another thing is that why I followed this structure of using describe and test. So this one helped me when I look at my tests. I can see these tests here, which are passing, but I can see the parent, which is describe, so I know what is for or which company it is for. Okay, that's the reason I follow that structure. Now let's go back to our test, and our main one we are trying to do is this test how we can see if our nav links are active when they should be. Okay, so again, same thing, we have to write our test function, render nav link with correct classes, and then you have to mock the render of your components. Of course, that's the first thing you have to do. And then what I will do is that I want to check that my first post it is rendering, it is in my document. When it is there, then if it's happy, then check for my screen by this text, okay? And find for me the E tag. If you remember, these nav links actually when they render in your browser behind the scene, they are A tags, okay? So what we are doing is that we are finding elements by text, then find its parent A tag, okay? So that's what we're doing here, closest A tag. When that one is found, I want to see if that link have my text blue 600, okay? Which is this one, my shared class. Now, let's save this, and that's passing as well. Now, of course, here we didn't click any links yet. So other thing I need to add to this test is that to check that, of course, it's not active. So I want to have this BG transparent. Okay, so I'll add that also to my list of classes. And let's click save and see if that's working. And that's working as expected. Now, let's see how we can test the active one. Okay, and how we can do that. So I'll just copy this one and we'll do a little tweak to it. So render nav link when active. Okay, and this one should be when not active. Okay, so when active with correct classes. Now we have to render these components, but I want to make sure that is pointing to the route of my post one, okay, my first post. Now let's see how we can handle the routes which are not defined in our application. Let me close off this and let me show you what I mean. Until now we only have like three routes defined: home slash post and then slash post slash the ID of your post. Okay, but let's say if someone goes here and do test slash test. That route is not defined yet for us here, okay? And customers may go and, add anything they want. Maybe someone's looking at info and just trying, your domain slash info. But that the route is not handled. That page is not created for you. So you want, for example, to display info or for message saying page not found or page does not exist. So how you can handle this and define the route? It's also very simple, very straightforward. One single line and we'll handle all that for you. So add another route with a path property Okay, and it will have value as a star. What do you mean? All the routes that they are not defined here in my list or even in my nested ones, okay? Any route that is not defined in my app, it will be handled by this route. Then element, and maybe for example you create your page components or whatever you can assign it here. For this demo, I'll just add an H1 and say page does not exist. Okay, and close off my route. Click save and let's test this. Already you can see it appears here because this route is not doesn't exist. Let's try another one. Test me. And that's not working. Slash I don't know 2. So these routes are not defined. So this single lane here handles for me all these routes that I didn't define. And when you do these things, you always make sure you do some backup tests and test whatever was working. So let me test my home. It's still working. I test my post. It's also still working. And I also test my post details, which is also still working. Let's talk about something super cool in React Router called index routes. And don't worry, I'll make it so simple that even your grandma will understand this. Now imagine this pie is your React app. You have different slides for different pages, right? Like we have home, posts, you can have about page, contact page, and more. But if you want to serve a special slice first, that's where index route comes in. They tell React Router which slice to serve up first when someone visits your app. Now, let's break it down. Index routes are like the default slice of your app. When you visit the route URL, you get this default slice. It's like when you open a book and the first chapter is always introduction. So, how we do this in React Router? It's super easy, and here is some code magic for you. First thing, let's take our post here as example. At the moment, our posts have a list of posts, right? Their titles, and also have a nested route as well, okay? And what happened when we click a post, then we see a details of the post. Until then, before we do that, our posts only have a list of posts and empty down there. So the users might not even know that they have really to click a post to see the details down there. So that we want to use our index route. We want to have a default view here, okay, for our route. And we say, for example, click a post to see the details of it, for example. Now, how we can do that? We can go back again to our route. We already defined our route. And I will go inside my posts because that's where I want to define my default route for it. Now, I'll go right there. I'll add a route. And this route, because it is an index route, doesn't have a path because always will be a child and nested of another route, and it is its default view, okay? And that's why it doesn't have path, but it is always a child of another route. But it accepts one property called index. That's how we are telling that this route is an index route, okay? Then it accepts an element, and again, this element, you can pass it whatever component you want, okay? At the moment, I just want to add instructions, and let's keep it, I'll add B, like a bold text, and I'll say, select a post to see the, to see its content. Okay, then we go and close off our route. Click save. And there we go. You can see immediately on my right, my screen of course hard reloaded. So you can see the default route is showing right there. Okay, and as now I click any of this element, that one will disappear. Okay, we click that, it's gone. Go back to my post. Again, I'll see my list of posts and again an instruction saying select a post to see its content. Now, I hope this makes a little bit sense for you. It is a really magical. And all what we have done was so easy. We just added a route as a child of our post route, and we give it a property called index. So it was very easy peasy, lemon squeezy, as my little one says all the time. Now let's see how we can handle navigation, but automatic navigation. What I mean is until now, to navigate, we go by ourselves and we click on links, okay? And then we can navigate between the routes. But let's say, for example, some basic example. You have a form, okay, contact us page, okay? And when you click submit, you want to take them to a successful page, okay? That's me. That automation is, or that navigation is happening upon of the form submission, okay? Without actually user clicking on some button to navigate them. Now, I will make a quick demo of this. So I created a contact page. So I need to create a route for that too. So I hope by now you will know how to do this. So I will create a new route called contact, and my component will be contact. Okay, and I need to import that. Let me import it and click save. And something here is okay, that I know why, because I didn't finish my code there yet. We want to do it together. Now I import my contact. I want to add also a link, for example, in my nav bar for that new page. I'll call it contact us. And of course, the path will be contact. That's the same path we added right there, and everything looks great. Okay, now we created our route, we link it as well, we add it to our header. Now let's go back to our form. Okay, and what I will do, I'll comment this one as well, so we run our page first. Now I will go and click contact us. So this is a simple form. Okay, let's say when you click submit, I want to take them to another page, for example, okay, called success page. So I need to create another route as well. So just copy paste this one, call it, for example, confirmation, and I'll not create a separate component for it. For the sake of this demo, I'll just keep it straightforward. I'll say submitted, you submitted your request. Me and my spellings request successfully. Okay, and I'll just let my editor help me now to fix this one. Okay, so what we have done is that we create again new route for our confirmation, save that. And what I want to do now, when I click or I trigger the submission of my form, I want to navigate to this new route, which is not success now. I created a new name for it, which is confirmation. So lucky for us also, again, it's very easy and very straightforward. In React Router DOM, you have access to another hook, useNavigate. So you remember before we use params? Now there's another hook as well, which called useNavigate. Again, just keep in mind, this you only can use hooks within a functional component. You can't use them within class component, okay? So we import our hook, and then this our hook will give us back a function. So I'll go and access that function as well inside my functional component. And then what I will do, whenever my submission is triggered, I want to navigate to my confirmation page. So this navigate function, it takes one parameter and it is the route that you want to navigate to. Very easy and straightforward as well. So let's save this. Let's write test and test at gmail.com. Click submit, and there we go. You submitted your request successfully, and you can see here our new route is displaying as well. Now let's see how we make this one more customizable and more funnier and dynamic as well. So what I want to do is that when I click the submission of my form in contact us page, I want to pass in the name and the email, okay? And when I am in my confirmation route, I want to display the full name of the person and its email as well, plus that you have submitted your request successfully too. So you need to pass some dynamic data, you need to see how you can read it in the new route and display it as well. So first things first is how we can pass on the data. That's also very easy and very straightforward. So the navigate function we get back from useNavigate. It takes two properties actually. So the first one is the route where you'll navigate to. Then the second one will be an object. And that object have a property called state. And that state you can pass it any values you want. So, okay, so I'll pass it an object as well. And I'll say the first object is the name, which will be pointing to my name state here. Okay, and because my name, the property name and its value are the same, I can just do this. Okay, and also I want to pass the email, which will be also same. That's the property name. Okay, then the value of it will be my actual state, okay, which is also email, which also they are the same. So I can do the shortcut, which is just an email, okay? So I'll save this. So all what we are doing now is when we are navigating to the confirmation page, we are passing some data to our route. So our React router will carry these values with it when it navigates from my contacts page to the confirmation page. Okay, now let's go back to our confirmation page. As I remember, we just created an inline and that will not work for us anymore. We need actual components. So let's go back here and create a confirmation page. Confirmation. And inside will be our component index.jsx, e, and we'll say confirmation. Okay, now I will copy this text which I passed right there, and I'll pass actually my component now here. So confirmation, and then I'll go to my confirmation page and I'll just paste whatever I had before there. Okay, and see it's still rendering. So I did the refactoring quickly. Now to the main thing. Okay, so now we land on the confirmation page how we can access that information that my React router is holding for me. Well, React router also have another hook, surprisingly, called useLocation. Okay, and that you imported from React router DOM. And if we go and cancel log our useLocation function, we will see what it gives us back. Okay, so I'll open my inspector, go cancel, and I'll go back and start my whole thing from scratch. So let's go test me, then test@gmail.com, and this should be at, and let's click submit. Now we land on our confirmation screen. You can see in our console, we get an object back, and that object have the state property, if you remember, the one we passed on from contact, okay? And we can go and open that up, and you can see it have the email that we passed, okay? And also the name, we can see it right there. So now I think you already know what you'll be doing. So we'll be accessing that dot state dot email and name. So let's go back to our component and let's access our state const state from useLocation, and we can come here our render and let's do some refactoring. So I'll say hi, and then I'll put state dot name, and then I'll wrap this maybe in some h1 actually, and we go and create a paragraph. You have been, for example, registered with the following email, and again we display our email state.email. Okay, and let me fix my spelling again, and let's save this. Now you can see hi test me, that's the name I passed in my form if you remember, and you can see here in my console, and you have been registered with the phone email, and again it renders from the email as well.